Hello, I'm Ricky.
And I'm Joe, and this is Season 5, Episode 9 of the Beer and Broadband Podcast. It's slated to come out on 5/30/2022, and so for all of you guys, that's the last, or on the last couple days of May, so just in case somebody in Europe was like, why are you doing that backwards? And we're going to start off with Lester's Fixin's Cucumber Soda. So my family and I went to this place called Gatlinburg here in Tennessee. It's not far from where we live. And we went and got some, snacks and foods and things like that. And at one of their candy stores, there was this soda. And I thought this would be just like a great thing for me to try because I've always wanted to try cucumber soda. I've heard you can take cucumber seed and make a like a cucumber soda out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always wanted to do it, and I saw this, and then I thought, we should do this on the podcast. I should not be the first person to experience this alone. So what do you think of it? You've taken a couple sips.
This is very interesting. I expected to absolutely hate it because I hate cucumbers. It's not that bad. It definitely has a little bit of a cucumber taste, but it's not overpowering.
Right.
And at that point, then it tastes like a fairly mild soda. Now reaching back into the vaults, because it's hard nowadays to find a soda that isn't flavored.
Right.
Reminds me a lot of a drink called Dr. Enough, which you can get in Tennessee and certain parts of North Carolina.
Yes,
stuff like
I
that.
do know what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I don't love Dr. Enough, but it's supposed to be kind of like a Dr. Pepper, like kind of thing, but not exactly.
Well, sort of. Yeah, it's basically a neutral soda. They don't put any other flavorings in it. It's just like tonic water and sugar.
Right.
And its whole thing for being quote unquote Dr. Enough is it's full of vitamins and stuff.
Right.
They throw into it. It's a nice little regional
I'm thinking
favorite.
I'm thinking of a different soda. You're right. I've had both, but I'm thinking of a different one.
Yeah, it's interesting. I like Dr. Enough, but purely because of nostalgia. Because my grandparents lived in Tennessee. I'd always have it when I went to go see them. It's not bad. I'm not sure I'd drink another bottle, but I'll certainly finish like what was poured here. If you are a person that likes cucumbers, like you like cucumber water and stuff like that, this is probably a much better drink for you.
Well, I mean, it's got sugar in it and stuff like that. So if you're diabetic, don't think it's like some sort of good thing.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's still
not
soda
good for me. Yeah. I don't see how many calories it is. Oh, here it is, right here. So it says on here it's 170 calories per bottle. It has 42 grams of sugar in it. That's a lot of sugar. And 43 grams of carbs. So it's got one more carb in it other than its sugars, which is probably some sort of like
natural
extra
alcohol
thing.
or something.
Yeah,
like that.
something like that. But I mean, yeah, I kind of like it. I love cucumbers. I love pickles. I love things like that. It's kind of good. It's kind of bad. But here's the thing I think this would be good in. If I wanted to make a mixed drink with something that was flavored like this, I think that would be good.
Yeah, you could definitely pull that off, especially like the more savory cocktails. But you want to put a little sweetness into it. Yeah, absolutely, that'd work really well. And yeah, I mean, even from a cucumber end, it's not that bad. Like I love pickles. I hate cucumbers. I think that's in the back of my mind. Again, the little tingles from last episode. I remember at a very young age eating a cucumber and just being appalled by it. And I think it was probably just like a bad cucumber or something. Because I can't tell you what I don't like about a cucumber. It's not necessarily the taste. It's not the crunch. Because I'll eat things that taste similar. And I'll eat things that have the same level of crunchiness. But I swear, my wife always makes fun of me. Anytime we get like a sushi roll or something and it comes with cucumber in it, I take my chopstick and I poke all the cucumber out. And then I'll eat it.
Cucumber, especially as I've gotten more, it's become more problematic for me, being diabetic. Cucumber is one of those things that's really good for my blood sugar. So I am always like eating those things and stuff like that. Do you want me, before I pour the beer that we have for this episode, to rinse out your glass?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
It really was inoffensive.
Okay.
Maybe even bordering on it. Someone who hates cucumber is still a little good.
Yeah, I think it was pleasant. I would not, if I wasn't diabetic and I wanted to have a drink, I would not kick that out. So the other thing that we're going to have today is the Irish Red Ale that we made. So it is a just an Irish Red Ale kit we got from. I got it from Northern Brewer, and we made it together.
Mm.
And it went completely dry, so it's at 1.0, for what it went to. I think it ended up being 5%, 5.7% ABV, so close, somewhere between like 5.5-6% ABV, and it was 5 gallons, and that's it. I did put, because I was doing some multiple things at the same time. I accidentally put wine tannin in this. So if it tastes a little oaky, that's why. But sure, go ahead and tell me what you think
I
of
mean,
it.
it does taste a little bit oaky, but I kind of like that. I don't think that was a bad addition. In the beginning, I really like it. It's got like a little bit of a citrusy note. It's acidic.
Mm-hmm.
It's got those little bit of bitter. You can taste the hops. My only complaint is the finish is it's a little sad. It's very like powerful at the front, and then it just kind of ends in this almost like a little limp.
Yeah.
It's not it's not that wet cardboard taste that people often associate with like over oxidation or anything like that. I don't think there's any problems like that.
No, there's nothing like that.
It's got a similar flavor to that, and just that it's very muted, kind of wet at the end.
Because it doesn't have a lot of residual sugar like most beers normally do. I think that's where it's got like the mouthfeel at the beginning, the initial flavors, like that tea flavor you get from beer. And then at the end, it just kind of goes away, where you would normally have like a little bit of sweetness left on the tongue.
Yeah, and it doesn't have some of those other flavors that like a really dry beer might have, where it would be fairly acidic or very bitter or something like that. So it leaves that finish fairly open.
And that's because I brewed it too well, I think.
That's probably it. I mean,
brewed too much of the sugars out of it.
Well, you can definitely take that stance, though, as well, as if you have all flavors, generally your all flavors are at the finish.
Right.
Unless you've had like something go sour, you're not catching those really astringent flavors until after you've swallowed, because the beer is going to overpower that.
Right.
So like to that end, you're probably right. If this was brewed a little bit differently, if the yeast was stressed or something like that, it might not be pleasant with at the end, but there would be something at the end.
Well, I think what I'm saying is I let it brew too much, and I didn't catch it before. So when I say it brewed too well,
so
I didn't catch it before it like finished and like cold crash it or pasteurize it or something like that, so it still had a little bit of sweetness, or add some sweetness back at the end.
Okay, so you think your gravity was lower on your product than maybe what they were intending with the kit?
No, it was actually a little bit higher. It was supposed to be like a 4.5, and I had a little bit better efficiency out of the brew house that day. And I mean, even though it was an extract kit, we came out at like right above the gravity. I think it was just like a little bit. I think it was supposed to be 5%, and I got like a little bit more. Or something like that.
You just went a little bit over that line. Okay.
But the thing is, it was supposed to go down to like 1.01, and it went down to 1.0.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I can see that. Yeah, there could definitely be that. We'll see. I mean, I'm not against it. It's not necessarily bad, but it's definitely something that, regardless of whether it was how you brewed it or how the recipe is designed, if you made it again, I would look at putting something in it or changing something in the process that's going to give it some of those more secondary and tertiary flavors.
I agree. I would have added, I would have spiced it a little bit or something like that. But the whole point of this, because this isn't normally a beer I would make, the whole point of this was for us to brew it together and for you to see how the brewing process of beer works, especially with like an extract kit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so.
And I mean, again, this is a drinkable beer. I'm going to finish my cup. I'm not as in love with it as I was the Merlot we did last episode, but this is not bad by really definition.
The beer that me and my daughter made, the Mexican lager.
Oh, that was really good.
You really like that one.
Yeah, that's got a good place in my mind. And see, here's the thing. I don't drink a whole lot, so not that I have a bad reference point, but I try to not be overly in love or critical of anything. Mm-hmm. But then I'll go someplace and I'll be like, oh, this is a new bar I've never been to before. I'll order something on tap, and they're never as good. This is my big thing about why I think people should homebrew is you can get such good homebrew stuff, like even out of kits. Like, I forget what the name of it was, but I got like a cider at a bar recently, and it was just sad. I mean, I don't think I've ever made a cider that was that bad. And it's not necessarily that it's was bad itself, like objectively, because if you are a large enough producer that you've got bars carrying you on tap, you're clearly doing pretty well, right?
Right.
There are some people that like that, but just the ability to go read a recipe or a summary on the back of a kit and be like, yeah, that sounds good. That's the kind of thing I like. It's way harder to miss like that when you're starting from a base level of, I know this is something I will enjoy when I get started,
Absolutely. And one of the reasons that I'm really so gung ho about homebrewing my own beer, homebrewing my own wine, stuff like that, this was, I just hit the thing again. This wine that I made.
Okay, it's like the sound of God. I love it. It's like if you go to Judgment Day, that's what I imagine the gavel sounds like. Just like the hit and the echo. Boom.
This wine that I made though, this Merlot, it was not hard to make. It turned out to be like, so I think I made like 40 bottles. It was $60. So it was something like $5 a bottle or something like that, or it's even less than that. It's like $3.50 or $4.50 a bottle, something like that. I'm not doing the math in my head. I'm just kind of like estimating, but it was. I can't buy anything that's that good for that amount and the effort I put into it. Let's say it's $10 a bottle. That is better than most $10 bottles of wine that I would go to the store and get, right?
I mean, to be fair, it's better than a lot of bottles more expensive than that, as I found out when I signed up for that wine thing a couple months ago. Sent me 12 bottles of wine, I can only drink 2 of them out of.
Yeah, but this beer is kind of like that, right? It is better than a lot of the beers that I get. Not all of them, because there are beer, like I know where to go get the beers that I like, right? But it's better than a lot of the beers that I get that are kind of in that same class of beer.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if I went to a bar and just played roulette with whatever they had on tap and I got this, I would be happy.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be my favorite beer, but it's a drinkable beer. I'm going to finish all of it. We normally go to a bar to get a little bar food. If I was sitting there with some fries and stuff, I'd be perfectly content.
Yeah, yeah. So if you want to make this, Northern Brewers Red Irish Ale kit or Irish Red Ale kit is not a bad one to try. And if you're thinking about getting into brewing, it's a good one. I think you can get an all grain kit too if you want to do that. So yeah, I'd say try it. Just keep in mind that if you're very efficient and you brew it very well, it may come out a little bit more dry than you expect it to. I mean, it was supposed to be like 1.01 or something like that for its, where it ended, and it went a little bit drier than that. So anyways, let's talk about the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus, not the Retroid Pocket 2, they're two different systems. The Retroid Pocket 2 Plus is a revision of the Retroid Pocket 2. I bought one of these. I got the black version. It is very similar to the Miu Mini in terms of its capabilities. The Miu Mini is a little bit less powerful because it can't quite play PlayStation 2 games and stuff like that. The Retroid Pocket 2 Plus is a GBA style handheld that's about that size. It runs Android, and it has all that goodness to it that you have from Android emulation and things like that. You got to play with it today, so what are your impressions of it? And then I'll talk about some of my complaints and my happy things that I like about it.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I was very happy with the kind of demo I got to have. Played some PS1 games, played some PC games, some older PC games on it. There was nothing that I really played with it that I thought was insurmountable. The PS1 game played great, pretty much exactly how I remembered it.
Yep.
The PC game, you're essentially playing on a console, so the mouse is where it was. That was a little funky, but with mods, you can probably fix that up. Build construction felt pretty good. Screen felt a little small. I could have maybe used like 1 more inch on that screen. And maybe the last thing is, it's got the 2 analog sticks, but only one's the full analog. The other one's kind of those little slidey buttons.
Yeah, so a PSP style slider.
Yeah, which, again, that emulates other handhelds. So I can't knock it too much for that, but I would have personally preferred a second full analog.
Yeah, me too. And that is one of my complaints about it is the second analog stick is not an analog stick, it's a slider. And if you're playing like GameCube or something, which it has the ability to do, it does it okay. And you're willing to put up with some of the like slowness or some of the issues that happen with that, then the slider is not the greatest for that, because GameCube uses that right analog more than it uses the left. One other thing that I think really ends up being weird with it is it doesn't, if you like racing games, it has on-off clicky triggers on the top, even though they're stacked triggers. They're not analog triggers, so you can't like control your speed or something like that. It's just either you're going or you're not.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Now, I don't play too many racing games, so it doesn't matter that much to me. And the ones that I do play, like N2O or something like that, they're not really racing games. They're kind of like shooter games that, have like dodging mechanics, kind of like F-Zero or something like that. You don't really need the triggers to be able to control, whatever you're doing. So it's not that big of a deal for me. But if you're looking at this to buy and you do play those games, okay, that could be a problem. The purpose that I bought it is it's about the same size as a Game Boy, and it's the form factor I like to play GBA games on. So anything that is up to a like a PlayStation 1 game that I want to be able to like carry with me. Now I have a PS Vita. It's just harder to get those games kind of onto the Vita than it is this.
Yeah.
That's one thing, and this has Android emulation on it, so I can play. The only game that I found that I had problems with was Dead Cells. It had a little bit of an issue, and the games don't look super great, right? But the screen is not made for these like super fancy games, and quite frankly, if I want to play one of those, I'll either play it like on my Switch, or because there's generally a port of that game on the Switch, or I'll play it, on like a phone or something. So I'm not it for what it does in that scope. It meets my needs. I love it. Right.
Yep.
It plays PlayStation 1 games great. It has a good analog stick for if I do play a PS2 game, I can like Trapped or something like that. I can try to play it on there. I can maybe emulate something on the go, like some older RPGs that were on like the GameCube, like Tales of Symphonia or something like that. So I'm perfectly happy with the performance that it has for the RPGs that I play.
Yeah.
That are in that emulated state. So I think it's a great game controller. And there's a guy, he does Retro Game Corps. That's the name of his channel. He does YouTube videos. He talks about this thing in depth, and I've seen some other people like kind of talk about it, and that's what kind of got me interested in it. So as opposed to the Miu Mini, I think for connectivity, it's got Bluetooth, it's got all this other stuff. You could use it as like a little console thing. It's a pretty great portable console gaming device.
Yep.
And it's small, so it's GBA size, And if you're looking for something like that you can carry with you, it's got great battery life. I think I've only charged it once, and I've had it for like a week and a half. You can put a huge memory card in it. It is great. But if you're looking for something that's going to play more powerful games, it's probably not the thing for you. That's more like a Switch or something like that. So you said you're going to get one. Is that?
Yeah, that's probably the plan. I mean, I was waiting to come play it here because you said you already had one. I'll probably order it tonight.
Yeah. I think it's pretty great. I just got the like jet black one, but you can get them in all sorts of different colors.
Yeah, I've been looking at the one that's like the same color as the GameCube. I'm probably going to do that.
The purple one?
Yeah.
That's
Something classic about that.
Yeah. So let's talk about playing Star Wars 5e. Not the D20 Star Wars, not the Star Wars game system that works with Suede, but the one that uses 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. It's a like a community conversion of like a classic Star Wars. You can go to StarWars5e.com, I think, or something like that, and like we've been playing this for 8 months, 6 months,
Yeah, getting
something like that.
definitely past the halfway mark on the year.
Yeah,
I think we started like January, February of last year.
so something like that. Or,
Maybe not quite that long.
no, we started it. As we did Suede after we finished Tomb of Annihilation for like a couple of.
That's right. That's right. We did a couple other things there.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
and so like at the beginning of the around Christmas time somewhere, January something. So it's getting pretty close to 6 months at this point.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. What do you think of it?
I really like it. I have read a pretty significant in-depth run of the rules. It's been a lot of fun to play, and on paper, it's really well balanced. I mean, it's essentially 5e that they've taken little pieces of and moved around different places and fixed kind of some problems with the way 5e is balanced. So, all in all, it's pretty great. It's a real easy switch over. I mean, if you already know how to play 5e, you pretty much know how to play Star Wars 5e. The stuff you don't know is in your class descriptions and stuff like that, so it's really easy to catch up on. It does a really good job of making the races all feel very different, the classes all feel very different, and to the extent that, like, sometimes I'll read a class description and be like, is that useful? Like, is that actually good? And then, you think about it some more, it's like, yeah, that actually probably could work. Like, there's some classes that are really just, like, not even built for combat at all.
Yeah.
Like, the Scholars it's almost like a weird support role without magic, but it's got, like, maneuvers. Like, even just that idea that's like, look, what if instead of being a battle master and you used all your, like, bonus dies for combat, what if you were like a support battle master and you used all of your dies to help other people?
Help other people, right?
And multi-classing works really well and it's kind of fun. There's a lot of stack synergies there. So, yeah, it's been a blast to be able to enjoy that kind of world of Star Wars in a fairly modern, like, gaming setup.
So because we play online, it's harder for me because I have to go find resources that allow me to do stuff. Where, like, with D&D 5e, I pretty much got everything that I already need to play. And there was an issue with being able to get Foundry because I bought Foundry to be able to play this. Because I had to do like a travel thing when we first started doing it. I bought Foundry to be able to do it, and it didn't work. And now that I'm thinking about this, I actually think we've been playing this for a year.
Yeah, like I thought we
started playing it
early
like
last year,
like August, because we were playing when we played like one of the first or second episodes when I went on that trip up north to install that unit. Yeah. So it's been almost a year that we've been playing this, and some of our listeners of the podcast, like, they play with us, so it's been like pretty great.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this like kind of works out. I think we're probably getting like closer to the end of the campaign that we have. And then we'll decide, like, do we want to play it again? I want to play it in person because there's some things that I can't do remotely that I would love to do in person. And I think we're going to have a chance to do that coming up here pretty soon, in a couple of weeks, because we're going to be going to Self. And
yeah, absolutely.
We might be able to play like everything together then. I don't know though. It's gonna be a pretty fun time meeting and playing, like, possibly in person.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but I think as far as like a remote experience, it requires a lot more work from the DM.
Yeah, there's a lot less built-in automation because it's not like the standard rules and stuff like that. So I can definitely see that.
Right.
I mean, even just, you go to get an item from your inventory. It's like, oh, that item doesn't actually exist in like the pre-built thing, so I got to go create it myself. Yep. Oh, you want to do this thing slightly differently? Okay, well, you better go in and edit the weapon properties and like all that stuff,
Yeah, and that's not the Foundry version of it because I never got that to run. That's the Fantasy Grounds, because you can play it through Roll20, Fantasy Grounds, or they have like a thing that you can import for all of them. And most of the stuff's there. There's just you're missing maps and some pictures and descriptions and things like that. But it's for a community driven free thing. It is top notch.
Yeah, they've done a really good job with it, and like seriously, in person, and probably a lot easier to open up like the expanded content. But yeah, as soon as you open that stuff up, there's literally hundreds of races for this that all feel kind of, there's still like pieces and parts they move around, but like, is there some random alien that showed up on screen in one movie for 30 seconds? There's a race for it.
Yep.
They somebody's read all the extended lore books and they figured out what he is, and here you go.
Yep. So let's talk about the last topic.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about work-life balance here a little bit, because we've been with the pandemic and working from home. I feel like that got a little out. People, and the people that we work with especially, have like made it that they're always kind of on. And I know that impacted me a lot, because there was a lot of like responsibility that, as a person who manages certain parts of an infrastructure that's all about making sure that people can work remotely, that was really tough for me. And I found that I was working way more than I normally do, probably closer to 70 hours a week instead of the 50, 60 hours a week I was working before. And so it really hit me that I was not being very kind to myself. And so I started doing some things like, I've always exercised a bit, but I started pouring more into like exercise and taking mindfulness breaks, and just time to like step away from my work responsibilities. And that really, I feel like, has helped. And it's also made me more productive at work, I think, because I'm only focusing on the things that are important. I'm not like letting everything else distract me. Right. So tell me a little bit about what maybe your techniques are to be able to, because we've talked about mine before. Right?
Yeah, I mean, in all honesty, what I've kind of switched to doing is I walk in every day with an agenda. I'll get in, check all my emails, make sure like nothing has changed, and I just keep lists of like the high priority tasks, medium priority, low priority. And my goal is to knock a couple things off of that whole list every day. I pick out which ones I want to do. I start working on them. It's not always successful, but I found, especially as like more people are working remote, people are less connected, it's real easy to have a lot of unexpected work flood in, where someone's like, hey, can you attend this meeting? Oh yeah, it's at 6:30.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, can you do this thing? Oh, something happened over the weekend. You're not on call, but I kind of texted you about it. So like, why didn't you?
Yeah, why didn't you respond?
Yeah. So, I've really just gotten that habit that like, look, did you give me something to do, but it wasn't on my list from this morning? Okay, is it like urgent? Does it like have to happen right now? No. Okay, that goes to the top of the list for tomorrow.
Right.
And that really helps me kind of center and stay a little bit more focused. It makes it feel a lot easier to get off of work like at that 4 or 5 o'clock. Like it's real easy when you have a lot of work coming in and you're shifting your work around a lot to be like, oh, it's 5 o'clock, I think get what I'm done, maybe I'll stay till 6. If you set your goals like right there, like 8:30 in the morning after you've read your emails, it's a lot easier to stick to them and be like, that's a tomorrow problem. That'll be at the top of the list for tomorrow.
I know one of the things that worries me about some of the people that we work with is that they work until like 8 or 9 o'clock at night, their time.
Yeah, I see them online. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how much of it's work, but they're definitely like on the corporate tech, like texting stuff. Like, oh, I saw this problem here. Like,
well, they're attending meetings and doing technical stuff at that time of night, and then they, get back up at their, morning, and they start work, and I know I used to do that, so like I know what effect it had on my health and my mental health and everything like that. So that concerns me a lot when people do that. That's not good. It's not good for you. It's not good for your family. It's not good for the other people that you work with, because that sets an example for them if they're looking up to you or something like that, right? So it's good to be a hard worker. I'm not suggesting you shouldn't, but I'm a little concerned that the way. So, I mean, number one, the corporations and businesses that we work for will continue to be there even if you go away. Even if they've got problems, even if you're like the head IT person, and this is important, something's wrong if you're having to do it every night all the time. Like, if you're in that kind of position. So, and then I think for me, like we talked about how like you deal with the work, but how do you deal with the stuff that you gotta like kind of let go when you get off work? Like for me to get my mind to like stop thinking about the problems of work, because like a problem's exciting for me. Like I want to solve it, so I start like thinking. When I'm not working, my mind thinks about the problems, and I come up with solutions. How do you stop yourself from doing that stuff?
I'll be honest. I know this isn't going to work for everybody because I actually have a lot of control over my schedule since, I'm in a position I'm generally telling other people to make a meeting with me and
Right.
not I'm having to go seek them. The last 2 hours of my day, I save for wind down. So, like, if I've got scheduled study sessions or something like that, I'm putting it in those last parts of the day. If I have, like, really casual, like, one-on-ones, stuff like that. So, I really try and front load my work so that my really active, I'm in the weeds, I'm doing troubleshooting, I'm getting excited about the problems I'm fixing, happen in the morning. And then, if there is anything still kind of outstanding as I get towards that later part of the day, I've got that time at work that I'm not, I don't want to say I'm not working as hard, but it's not as active a work to, like, do that wind down so that when I log off at 5, I got nothing else on my mind.
So for me, I can't stop thinking about that stuff. Like it doesn't cause me not to sleep. It doesn't like keep me up at night or anything. But when I'm like downstairs playing video games, my mind's also thinking about, hey, how do I fix this problem?
Yeah. I wish I had advice for that because I really used to be like that. It used to be so bad at keeping me up at night. That was a big source of my insomnia. But at some point, I just through practicing of like, look, I'm going to get off work at this time and I'm not going to work on anything else. I'm going to try not to think about it. It just kind of became natural. Which I know that doesn't work for most people. That's really terrible advice. Don't gaslight yourself, and that works. Of like, if I just tell myself not to worry about it, I'll stop worrying.
I'll stop worrying about it.
But that is how it kind of worked out for me. Is eventually I was just able to turn that part off.
Yeah, I think for me, I've had to do more like mindfulness exercises, like where I watch. I have a meditation that I'll do for about 10 minutes, where I sit there and I hit the mic. I solved it with everything except for right there. But I'll sit there and I will, while I'm focusing on whatever I'm doing, when my mind starts shifting to something else, I recognize the thought and then I let it go. And the way I imagine it is it's like a leaf that falls off of a tree and hits some water on a river. And when the thought that I have is on that leaf and it just kind of floats by and I'm just watching it instead of interacting with it. So that's helped me a whole lot. It's not perfect, but that's I think the coping mechanism that you have to have, because it doesn't work for everyone, is like an important thing. And as someone who, a lot of what I do is all about making sure that people can work from home and work from home successfully. That is a huge component of that, because if your workspace and your living space is the same, you never get to quit being at work if you don't make those boundaries.
Exactly. You got to get those mental barriers up so that you're comfortable walking away from it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I had a whole like separate room in both of my previous houses, and then I have a whole floor basically, and I've even got this one cordoned off, the fun part and the work part, like between the two. And I can kind of mentally go, okay, I'm going to go sit here in this armchair and be away from work if I need to take like a 10 or 15 minute break sometimes. I haven't needed that so much lately though. Maybe because I'm not as, I'm not as in the weeds, so
your
much.
Responsibilities are shifting.
Yeah.
In a good direction.
Well, we'll see.
probably a good direction for your mental health.
Yeah, probably a good direction for my mental health. Probably a good direction for my career too. But we'll see. We'll see if that. I just don't know if that's exactly what's going to happen. So, anyways, is there anything else you want to say about that topic?
No, I think I'm good.
Well, then, this has been Season 5, Episode 9 of the Beer and Broadband Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. We have a Twitter and a Patreon, and we'd love to have you engage with us there. Give us some ideas for some episode topics, or, there's even, if you do the Patreon thing, you can like kind of give input on different things that you want us to talk about, or other things like that. So we're happy to hear what you guys have to say, and we'll catch you next time.